Pete Rose, famously known as Charlie Hustle, epitomized relentless determination. He put everything on the line, both figuratively and literally, to help his team win. Known for his aggressive, sometimes controversial style, Rose played with a bold arrogance that could provoke both admiration and disdain. An incredibly tough out, he was a line drive hitter who used the entire field. This approach, coupled with durability, earned him the title of baseball's hit king. Unfortunately, Pete's legacy is clouded by a betting scandal, persistent denial, and other off-the-field transgressions which have prevented his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame. Thank you for the suggestions, and make sure to comment on who you want to see next. As always, if you enjoy, please leave a like and consider subscribing. Peter Edward Rose was born on April 14, 1941 in Cincinnati, Ohio. From a young age, he was a switch hitter and developed a strong work ethic under the guidance of his father, Harry. Emphasizing the importance of winning, Pete once said, "You play to win championships, that's why you play." In high school, he excelled in baseball and football. In 1960, at age 19, Pete signed with the Cincinnati Reds as a catcher, but immediately shifted to second base. By 1963, his hustle caught the spotlight during a spring training game against the Yankees, notably when Rose scored from third on a pop-up to shortstop, causing Whitey Ford and Mickey Mantle to derisively tell reporters, "Charlie Hustle beat us today." Other stories suggest that Ford quipped the nickname when he saw Rose sprint to first on a walk or dramatically attempt to catch a home run well beyond his reach. Regardless of the true origin, it perfectly reflected Pete's style, and he never took offense to the moniker. On April 8, 1963, playing at Crosley Field, Rose made his MLB debut on opening day, batting second and playing second base, a long-awaited dream come true. After shaking off the first game jitters, he tallied 170 hits en route to claiming Rookie of the Year honors. As a cocky newcomer, Pete was not well received initially by many of his teammates, though Frank Robinson and Vada Pinson offered him mentorship. After struggling offensively in 1964, Rose broke out with an MLB best 209 hits in 1965. Batting .312, he began a streak of 9 consecutive seasons with a .300 average. He played 162 games or more in 8 seasons, second only to Cal Ripken Jr.'s 10. Pete made his first All-Star team and finished 6th in MVP voting. In 1966, he compiled a .313 average and 205 hits, including a career-high 16 home runs, warranting MVP votes. By 1968, Rose led MLB with a .335 average, receiving his first batting title. He also paced the league with a .391 on-base percentage, 210 hits, and 17 assists, the most of any right fielder. By measure of adjusted OPS, he was 52% better than the league average hitter. Pete was the runner-up in MVP voting to Bob Gibson during the year of the pitcher, prompting the league to lower the mound height by 5 inches and shrink the strike zone to reduce pitchers' dominance. In 1969, Rose set or equaled personal bests in several hitting metrics, including a .348 average, 16 home runs, 82 RBIs, 11 triples, and a .158 OPS+. He led the league with 120 runs and captured his second consecutive batting title. Pete was one of 3 NL outfielders recognized with the Gold Glove, a distinction he repeated the following season. He placed 4th in MVP voting behind Hank Aaron, Tom Seaver, and Willie McCovey. In 1970, Sparky Anderson took the helm and named Rose team captain, who credits the skipper with developing the Big Red Machine. During the All-Star game, Pete was involved in a fierce collision at the plate with catcher Ray Fosse, which would not be allowed by current rules. He bulldozed his way in to score the winning run for the National League, although Fosse suffered an injury that never fully healed. Pete topped MLB in hits with 205 and finished 7th in MVP voting. The Reds, with 102 wins, swept the Pirates in the NLCS but fell to the Orioles in the Fall Classic, led by World Series MVP Brooks Robinson. Tragically, this loss came just before Pete's father passed away in the offseason at age 58. Thereafter, Rose began a remarkable durability streak, missing just 6 games from 1971 to 1982. In 1972, he moved to left field, where he played primarily for the next 3 seasons. In an NLCS rematch against the Pirates, Rose hit .450 in 5 games. The Reds returned to the World Series but lost to the Oakland Athletics, with 6 of the 7 games decided by 1 run. Facing elimination, Pete kept their hopes alive in Game 5, hitting a leadoff home run that sparked a 5-4 win. In 1973, Pete Rose took his game to the next level. After a strong All-Star first half, he exploded with a .413 average, 52 hits, and a 1.014 OPS in July, meriting Player of the Month honors. He continued his potent form in August with a .377 average and 49 hits. For the year, Rose batted .338, winning his third batting title and trailing only Rod Carew for the MLB lead. He amassed the most hits in the majors with 230, a number that only 7 players have replicated since. He scored 115 runs, posted 8.3 WAR, and walked more than he struck out, a common trend for his career. The Reds clinched the National League West Division and faced the New York Mets in the NLCS. During Game 3, Rose recklessly slid into shortstop Bud Harrelson in an attempt to break up a double play, leading to an infamous bench-clearing brawl. The 99-win Reds were upset by the 82-win Mets, falling in 5 games. Pete, who hit just 5 home runs during the regular season, slugged 2 more in the series while batting .381. His consolation prize was the National League MVP award in a tight race with the Pirates' Willie Stargell. No other position player has won the hardware with 5 or fewer home runs since. In 1974, Rose led all players with 110 runs scored, 45 doubles, and 163 games played, taking advantage of a tied game being made up, which was counted as a separate contest at the time. From an old-school perspective, Rose was at his best defensively as a left fielder, boasting 11 assists and a .997 fielding percentage, both NL best marks. The Reds won 98 games but finished second in the NL West, 4 games behind the Dodgers, and missed the postseason. In 1975, Pete Rose was the Big Red Machine's spark plug as a leadoff hitter, setting the table for 3 Hall of Famers who often followed him in the batting order: Joe Morgan, Johnny Bench, and Tony Pérez. At manager Sparky Anderson's request, Rose took over at third base for the next 4 years. By the end of his career, Pete would become the only player in history to both play 500 games and receive All-Star selections at 5 different positions. After winning 108 games, a franchise record, the Reds overpowered the Pirates in the NLCS. Sweeping their way to the World Series, Cincinnati opposed the Boston Red Sox. The '75 Fall Classic is still considered one of the most thrilling in history, featuring 2 extra inning games and 5 decided by 1 run. Red Sox catcher Carlton Fisk memorably waved his walk-off home run fair to force Game 7. On the Reds side, Rose delivered his own clutch performance, batting .435 with a .552 on-base percentage from Game 2 onward. In the decisive Game 7, Pete hit a game-tying RBI single in the 7th inning, helping Cincinnati secure their first World Series title in 35 years. In 1976, Rose led MLB with 130 runs scored, 215 hits, and 42 doubles. He batted .323 and posted a .404 on-base percentage, finishing 4th in MVP voting behind Mike Schmidt and 2 teammates, George Foster and the winner Joe Morgan. The Reds, holding the best record in baseball for the 2nd straight year, steamrolled their way to another championship. By sweeping the Phillies in the NLCS and the Yankees in the World Series, the 1976 Reds stand as the only team since the playoff expansion to win a title without a single postseason loss. On July 25, 1977, Rose surpassed Frankie Frisch's record for most career hits by a switch hitter, reaching number 2,881. On May 5, 1978, Pete became the 13th player to achieve 3,000 hits. Starting June 14th, he embarked on a 44-game hitting streak, tying Willie Keeler's all-time National League record and setting a modern NL mark, second only to Joe DiMaggio's 56-game streak in 1941. During the stretch, Rose batted .385 with 0 home runs and struck out just 5 times. At its conclusion on August 1st, he made hard contact in 2 at-bats but was robbed by the Atlanta Braves defense. Pete was awarded Player of the Month for July and went on to lead MLB with 51 doubles, setting a career best. Whisperings of Pete Rose's association with gamblers and failed salary negotiations contributed to the Reds parting ways with their star player. As a free agent, Rose sparked a massive recruitment effort, with different teams offering a $1 million salary, a beer distributorship, and race horses to secure his services. He turned them all down to join the Philadelphia Phillies on a 4-year, $3.2 million contract, making him the highest-paid baseball player at the time. Seeing that Mike Schmidt was entrenched at third base, Rose was shifted to first base. In September of 1979, Pete notched a .422 average and 51 hits, earning Player of the Month honors. In his first season with the Phillies, he batted .331, led the league with a .418 on-base percentage, and stole a career-high 20 bases. This also represented his 10th season with 200 or more hits, a benchmark matched only by Ichiro Suzuki since. In 1980, Pete Rose was the league leader with 42 doubles, though it was an otherwise unimpressive season by his standards. The Phillies, however, thrived with MVP Mike Schmidt shouldering much of the offensive load, leading them to an NL East division crown after narrowly defeating the Expos. In the NLCS against the Astros, Rose registered a .400 average and a .520 on-base percentage. In the decisive Game 5, he faced Nolan Ryan in a pivotal 7-pitch battle, drawing a bases-loaded walk that brought the Phillies within 2 runs. Philadelphia completed the comeback and advanced to the World Series, where they faced the Kansas City Royals. All 6 games were decided by 3 runs or fewer, but the Phillies secured their first World Series title 77 years after the inaugural Fall Classic. Philadelphia celebrated with a parade attended by 500,000 fans. On August 10, 1981, Rose became the National League's career hits leader with number 3,631, overtaking Hall of Famer Stan Musial. In the strike-shortened season, he batted .325 and led MLB with 140 hits, garnering a Silver Slugger Award, introduced in 1980. He is the only first baseman to win this honor without hitting a home run. In 1983, Pete batted .344 in the postseason, but for the second time in his career, fell to the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series. In 1984, Rose signed with the Montreal Expos. On April 13th, he became the second player to attain the 4,000-hit milestone, doing so against his former team, the Phillies. Aiming to surpass Ty Cobb and become the all-time hits leader, Rose was traded back to the Reds on August 16th, a reunion that drew fans eager to witness history. He stepped into the role of player manager, overseeing the lineup and making in-game decisions. He is the last person to hold that position in MLB. In limited action down the stretch, Pete batted .365. In 1985, he was selected to his final All-Star team. On September 11, 1985, in front of the home fans, Pete Rose set the all-time hits record with number 4,192, a single in the first inning, and received a standing ovation that lasted 9 minutes. He shared the emotional moment with his son, Pete Jr., who would later play for the Reds. In that game, Rose also walked and tripled, scoring both runs in Cincinnati's 2-0 victory over the Padres. Interestingly, Baseball Reference lists Ty Cobb's hit total as 4,189 due to a miscount, which means Pete's record actually occurred on September 8th. In 1985, the Reds enjoyed their best season with Rose as manager, winning 89 games but finishing second to the Dodgers in the NL West. At 45 years old in 1986, his batting average dropped to .219 in 72 games. Pete hung up the cleats as a player after the season, but continued as manager. Pete Rose batted .303, amassing 4,256 hits, 746 doubles, 2,165 runs scored, 79.5 WAR, and 423 more walks than strikeouts. He is the all-time leader in games played, plate appearances, at-bats, singles, and hits. Pete ranks 6th in runs scored and is second to Tris Speaker in doubles. Since 1900, he is one of only 4 MLB switch hitters with a career .300 average and at least 1,000 games played. His resume includes 17 All-Star appearances, 3 World Series rings, 3 batting titles, 2 Gold Gloves, an MVP award, Rookie of the Year, a Silver Slugger, and a World Series MVP. During his managerial tenure from 1984 to 1989, Pete compiled a .525 winning percentage. His most notorious moment as skipper came on April 30th, 1988, when he shoved umpire Dave Pallone after a controversial late call allowed the Mets to score the go-ahead run. The incident resulted in Rose's ejection, a 30-day suspension, and a $10,000 fine. On June 27, 1989, the Dowd report was published, confirming Pete Rose's involvement in gambling on baseball. Rose fervently denied the allegations and refused to take responsibility. However, on August 24th, he reached a deal with Commissioner Bart Giamatti, which banned Pete from baseball but included a clause for reconsideration at a later date. Tragically, Giamatti passed away a week later from a heart attack. His successor, Fay Vincent, effectively ended any chance of Rose's reinstatement. With the introduction of a rule barring anyone banned or on the restricted list from Hall of Fame eligibility, Rose has not been admitted to Cooperstown. His permanent ineligibility prevents him from attending official ceremonies, though some exceptions are permitted. In 1999, he took part in the All-Century Team presentation during the World Series. Pete's gambling admission was revealed to the public in his 2004 book, My Prison Without Bars, the title referencing his 5-month prison stay for tax evasion in 1990. Rose claimed he bet on Reds games, always wagering on his team to win. In 2015, he received a thunderous standing ovation during the All-Star Game festivities at Cincinnati's Great American Ballpark. In 2016, Pete was inducted as a member of the Reds Hall of Fame and his uniform number 14 was retired. From 2015 to 2017, he served as a guest studio analyst for Fox Sports, where his unique perspective and witty humor entertained both the audience and his colleagues. In a disappointing development, Rose was terminated after being accused of having a relationship with an underage girl in the 1970s. In 2022, he made a contemptuous response to a female reporter inquiring about those allegations on the same day Pete was honored alongside other members of the 1980 championship team. Now 83 years old as of 2024, he primarily makes public appearances at autograph shows, a side hustle he has maintained for decades. Pete Rose spent 24 years showing unparalleled grit every time he stepped on the field, famously saying he would walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball. According to his Hall of Fame teammate Joe Morgan, Pete played every game as if it were the 7th game of the World Series. However, his clouded past has overshadowed his legacy. Although he remains excluded from Cooperstown, Pete Rose continues to reign as MLB's hit king. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.